Okay, today's message is not going to be for everyone. It's a channel message that is very strong. If you're someone that relates to justice, you don't like to see inequality, you don't like to see people treated unfairly, then this is definitely like a message that's for you. And so what I kept hearing a lot was one bad apple spoils the bunch. And it depends on what perspective you want to look at it at. Like girl scientist, also a spiritualist. I got my hand in a little bit of everything. I take everything with a grain of salt. And from a scientist background, like just scientifically, like with mold spores and things like that, yeah. You just probably want to throw that whole bunch away. But if we're talking figuratively, that's not true. Growing up in order to be taught when we're children, to be taught certain things, societal norms, so we fall in line. Everything has to be black or white. As we get older, we realize things aren't always black and white. There is room for gray, and in some cases, you have to make gray. I remember going to school. I went to school for chem bio, and we were just in the lab one day, and one of the people who was in class with me, they were like, it was Lent. I'm Catholic as well. And I'm also a study of many other religions. But just at that time, that's what I identified as. And so it was Lent, so I had like ashes on my head. And so there were like a lot of people in my class that day. They were just like, after all that we have studied, and we're pretty high up in colleges when we're like in our junior level. So we've studied a lot of, sciences. And they're like, after all the sciences you've studied and, everything that you know about how like the world is formed and everything like that, you still believe in the idea or concept of God? And my answer was yes, because even with all of the sciences that I've studied, nothing's been able to prove anything wrong. There isn't a theory on this earth that proves anything wrong. I've studied many religions. I started off with Catholicism, Methodist. I studied a lot of versions of Christianity before I branched out to Judaism, before I branched out to Buddhism. There are so many religions out there. And for someone to sit there and say one is wrong and the other is right, one bad apple doesn't spoil the bunch. Things aren't black and white. There are people that are part of certain groups, whether it be social, religious, or professional, that can leave a bad taste in your mouth. There are a lot of uh, political leaders that'll leave your bad taste in your mouth, and it can lead you to pain. I'm in the United States, so let's just say people say, the main two political parties are the Republicans and Democrats. There are other parties, but those are the most, known. And, you can say, oh, Republicans are bad, look like, Trump, or you can hear it the other way. Democrats are bad, look at Obama. It's like one person. You might not have liked how they led, but one person, one bad apple doesn't spoil the bunch. That doesn't mean all of the Republicans are bad. That doesn't mean all of the Democrats are bad. Same thing with religion. We have to get better at respecting other people's beliefs. You do not have to agree, but you can respect someone's belief. Like I said, I've studied many religions. I've studied many sciences. And if I had stuck to my original foundation of this person is wrong or this is bad, I would have never come to learn half the things that I learned, because realistically, when you decide to step into something and study it, it takes a while. You can't just like even look at a marriage. Most people who've been married like 40, 50 years, they're like, it takes time. And no, the person isn't always who you thought they were, or within time they change, and you have to learn to grow with them and accept the person they're changing into. It takes time to learn a person, and just one person at that. Could you imagine how long it takes for you to learn? Most people who might have been in religion, like, I can talk very heavily on Catholicism, but other religions as well, but Catholicism mainly because was where my original foundation. That's what I grew up knowing before I branched out and started studying other things. And how dare I speak on any other religion or science or professional group. How dare I speak on that? And I've only, like I said, I was allowed to study it, but I haven't, just because I studied it in school for maybe 2, 3 years, doesn't mean I know all to be all. Like I said, it's taken me all my life to study Catholicism. And so there's still some things I'm still figuring out, like learning about. You know, I am a part of a well-known sorority, and that's part of a big group. And they've actually been in the public recently because of the debates and the presidential election going on in the U.S. right now. And there are a lot of people, and especially religious people, religious factions, who have deemed my organization as well as other organizations, devil worshiping because of possibly what they believe something was founded on. And there are people that have actually like studied this, and that's their belief, and I respect it. I don't personally agree or believe what they believe, but I can understand why they believe what they believe, and I respect their beliefs. I'm not out here trying to change anything. We have seen in the world where, you have gender against gender. You have people changing genders that, not like changing, like I just woke up that day, like they felt like they were born in the wrong body. Whether, I agree or disagree, whether you disagree or you agree, that's nobody's, like I say, close friend, sure, you can share your opinion. And let's say, in today's world, yeah, you can verbally share your opinion too. But just because you don't agree with something doesn't mean you can't respect it. That is what we have to get better at. And I really would love to challenge people of color, minorities, any minority. Me, being, looking at my skin, most people would label me black. I have other things in me, trust and believe. But, just upon first glance, someone would label me as black, and I identify as black. Now, historically, a lot of people have been taught black people are bad. Okay. That's not true. One bad apple doesn't spoil the bunch. Or one person's beliefs should not shape an entire nation, entire society, an entire culture's belief. And a lot of times why we label something as bad or not good or evil is truly because we don't understand. That's historically how it's been. We have ran away, labeled something horrible when you don't understand something. Think about it when you see with like kids in school, like, oh, what class do you like? What subject do you like? A lot of times kids don't like the subject they don't understand. Pretty much everyone that I went to high school with, like when they found out that like your girl was a chem bio person, they were just like, what? But you hated chemistry in high school. Like you hated it. I hated it because I didn't understand it. The teacher that I had was not exactly didn't teach in the language that I understood. And that's also something that people need to understand. Sometimes we might learn something, but we might have had the wrong teacher. And the wrong teacher can truly shape your opinions, your belief, and your view on the subject. And if your subject is something like religion, gender, socioeconomic things, class structures, then yeah, that's pretty like damaging if, to have a teacher like that to ruin that for you. And that's why, it is important to get other teachers. I knew that, from a young age, I love science. Like, I loved questioning things. Like I said, science fairs was my jam. I used to love when science fair came around and people look at me like I was crazy, but I was like, that's my jam. So it's just like to go through high school and have that experience and be like, I didn't like it. And that was just chemistry. I loved anatomy and everything like that. And when I got a tutor for chemistry, I did so much better. I didn't allow that one experience to shape me and say, this isn't for me or I don't like it. And so when I went to college, it took some time, and I was probably like really listening to, when you go on those orientations, I listened to what the professors are saying. I did have questions because it was important for where I was going to get educated, as much money you pay for education, that I'm actually going to be educated by the, people that I can understand. And man, did I become this firehouse in college, just going after it. Like I lived for, that passion I had for it as a child. I still had it then, and expand on it. I'm still expanding on it. It's crazy. Like the things that I just couldn't think of and want to study more of. So do not allow like one person or one situation, or even if your foundation was your parents. I mean, those are pretty important people in everyone's life. But when you become and it's their job to, give you that foundation. But when you step into your own, you become an adult, it is now time for you to do your own due diligence, to ask the right questions, pertaining to your education life. Like I said, whether it's professionalism, it's career, financial advice, religious, social, do your own due diligence. Don't allow just what someone told you, just because someone told you it, or you've seen it over and over again, you've been taught the same thing over and over again, you see it in books. Do not let that be your definition about how you define a certain race, a certain gender, a certain religion, a certain culture. Go out there and experience it. And even if your experience and you realize that's not for you, then leave it at that. It's just not for you. That doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just something that you don't believe. Having studied so many religions, I see that there's a little bit of every religion in every single one. Like, from Muslims to Judaism to Buddhism, Christianity, like there's a little bit of each one and everything, even down to atheists. There's a little bit of everything and everything for someone. But you take everything with a grain of salt. And I think where we kind of get caught up is that a lot of times we have to choose a label, choose an identity, choose a gender, choose a race. Like that's sometimes where we get caught up at. Like we get caught up in our labels, we caught up in our identities. And it's important to like even down the diet. Like, at one point in time, like I said, I was very strict. No dairy, no gluten, hardly any meat, every once in a while fish. And I was very hardcore on that. And I was probably like that for 10 years. And then it was just like, things are good in moderation. Like not everything is horrible, and that's just for my body type. For someone else, they might just think, oh, okay, well, I can eat meat all the time. And I'm not going to sit here and say, that's bad. No, if that works for you and you're healthy and you feel good, that works for you. We are all different people. There's not one way to do anything. I think I was talking to my mom and she called me and she was like, they found another way to do, I think it was the Pythagoras theorem. I was not listening wholly to what she was saying. I was doing something when she was telling me. But, to me, like, she was just surprised it happened because it's been done one way for a long time. I'm like, well, I don't know why you're surprised. I'm like, as that saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There are 1,000 ways to do something, but someone does something one way and they publicize it, and other people do it that way and they publicize it, and people make money, and so they feel like this is the way it's done. It has to be done this way. There are thousands of ways to do something. We now have to sit down and think of you have to have that calling in you, that calling mission on your life, that I want to sit down and figure out how to do it, or simply I just want to do it my way. I don't want to do it their way. I understand that way is wildly successful. A lot of people see success from it, but it's my life and I like to live it a different way. I like to live it my way, how I'm being called. How do you ever know a different way of being? How do you ever know there's another answer if you don't try? It is important for us to be open to different experiences. It is important for us to be open to different ways of thinking, being, existing, solving problems. There's not just one way to do something. And, I would love to see in the world like people just being more open, more like accepting, like just accepting to being open. Like I said, you do not have to agree or believe. You don't have to agree. That's saying we can agree to disagree. Like, people sometimes truly don't know what that means. That doesn't mean you hate them. That means it doesn't mean you talk against them. You talk down on them. You label them as evil. You label them as bad. You label that's just not for me. I don't agree with that. Um, mhm. I think it's important for all souls out here, the souls that care about, you know, the injustice we're seeing in the world, the inequality that we're seeing in the world. You know, it's important for us to live a life that reflects our morals and our values. If you don't necessarily believe that everything is bad, one bad apple spoils the bunch, then get out there and live a life where you show where one bad apple doesn't, spoil the bunch. Doing my own research. I'm like, I didn't, even like I said, I turned to rant. Like, if something people would tell me that's bad or that's horrible, like, my question is, well, why? And most of the time, people couldn't tell me why something was bad. They just, stay away from it. Well, that's not a good reason for me. For some people that is. Because a lot of times when I see people label something as bad or like negative, it's through their own experience. And so, or their family members' experience. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna go out there and try. And then I'm just like, well, it's not bad. And I could relate to it. And so for me, it was a lot of people, I would say people that, I did deem associates or even family members. I think I was always hesitant to share the things I know and talk about the things I know because I knew I would be labeled as like I would be outcast, black sheep. Um, I'm very accepting, but I realize other people aren't very accepting. So it for a while stopped me from chasing what I was being called to chase, stepping into what was meant for me, that mission or calling on my life, helping others, sharing knowledge and wisdom to those that are ready to hear it and ready to receive it. And it was almost like, I felt like, that like little selfish, like safeguarding gatekeeping, like you're not sharing wisdom that others truly can benefit from and grow, simply because it's not very popular. It's frowned upon. It's looked down upon. And sometimes that's how they keep so many people in. And let me not say there are people out here who have, made things look bad. But there are also priests that have made things look bad. Priests, pastors, ministers, political figures. There are a lot of people who have made things look bad. But that doesn't mean that one bad apple ruined the whole bunch for everyone. And we as people have to stop being so judgy. I think that is the biggest flaw that all humans have. We judge. And I think of Bible where it's, judge not, least you want to be judged. And, Jesus, he without sin be the first to cast stone. I think a lot of times we relate that to like prostitution and like, adultery or stuff like that, but it's truly drudging a race, a gender, a culture, a religion. That is judging. Another nation, that is judging. Just because they live differently than you doesn't mean that they're wrong. Just because they worship or value an entity, a, deity that you know nothing about and has probably been demonized in your religion, doesn't mean that they're bad. I would love to see religions have more respect for other ways of being. While it is not what you practice every day and what you believe every day, you do not have to demonize it and call it bad. You don't have to say these people are going to hell. That's no way. You have no way of knowing that. We are no one's judge or jury prosecutor. That is the Most High's job. You are not here to judge, but now you don't have to participate. And if you want to share with others, you know what? It's not for me. and then with my beliefs, I wouldn't recommend it, but you should go try it for yourself. That's what we should be doing. But then certain people who are on top, they would lose their numbers, they would lose their following. They can't do that. In their eyes, let's say the other race, the other religion, the other culture, the other nation is winning. Why is this a competition? It's not a competition. And if you're looking at it as a competition, as you're looking at winning, who has the most people, who has the most freedom, who has the better way of living? America, like things like that. It's like, no, I do not. I'm very proud to be an American, but I do not think that we are the best place out there. It all depends on what you're looking for in life. What do you want out of life? How do you want to live? Then that country is the best for you. Now, I will say, a lot of people that I have met, and I've gone to other countries, and I met plenty of people from other countries. I have plenty of friends of, many different ethnicities and cultures. And they say there's a lot of opportunity in America, and that's great. It's great. You have opportunity and you can educate yourself to be wherever you want to be. That is a beautiful thing. But it's just almost kind of like if everyone flocks here, opportunity and kind of just stays here. It's like, when do you see the change in other countries? Who's there to inspire change? Who's there to inspire the revolution? I'm not a huge history person. Like, I know history, but it's just not, because I know a lot of times the victor tells, the winner of the war of history, they're the ones who tell their story. It's their sided. So I know a lot of times history is one sided, and I would love to know both sides. Uh, But, you think about these people like in America, you think about people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Black Panthers, who, sought out change, we had this big, revolution. And you think about how, religion in other countries, we had the Revolutionary War, you had reformists, in other countries. It's just like those people were brave enough to stand up and fight for change. And it's like, when do we stand up and fight for change? What I really loved about Martin Luther King and a lot of, his demonstrations and protests, they were peaceful. No violence. And, it's just like sometimes, even when violence was, brought against them, they didn't even have that violence, because it was just like, I can say I disagree with you and get across my opinion, my viewpoint, or how I feel without being disrespectful, without being violent. And that is like, words have power, actions have power, and it doesn't have to be from violence. If you don't like a certain platform, you don't have to participate. You don't have to spend your money there. There is one particular fast food chain. I mean, I'm not a big fast food person in general. Like, when I went through changing my diet lifestyle, like I said, this lifestyle change, I kind of left fast food behind. But there were a few that I might eat every now and then. And there's one big one that was against uh, Roe versus Wade, big part of having that overturned in America. And the way that I took a stance is that I just stopped being a customer there. I haven't been to this food chain in 2 years now. And my whole family, like, they'll be like, "You sure you don't want any?" Or, it's like, yeah. And one could say, well, what's your one thing doing? And that's how sometimes people, like, will get in your head and make you feel like your demonstration or your protest isn't doing anything. It's like, well, if I run into people and I educate them on why I'm doing what I'm doing, then people are like, wow. And like, it inspires some people and they wish they could do that, or they just admire, and and they're aware and they tell other people what I'm doing. So, I mean, it's still getting out the word. Never think that your voice, your actions, don't have an effect in this world. They do. Um, and even though it's still a very like successful like food chain, it's just like I feel good in my process. Like I feel I don't support it. I am a huge believer of, like I said, just injustice. I believe we do not have the right to tell someone what to do with their body, how they identify as, put these labels on. Like, that's just not us. We just have to let people be. I'm a big person as long as you're not harming anyone. You can be you. I think now we have to now start, like I said, I think a lot of people have a hard time with the changes we're seeing in the world, or people being more comfortable in their skin and not hiding who they are, especially perhaps the younger generation doing that. Um, it scares them because then it has to like get into their beliefs. It threatens their beliefs, and they don't like their beliefs being threatened. And it's just like someone existing in the world different doesn't affect your beliefs. Then that kind of shows a little how like self-absorbed and selfish we are. Like if someone existing truly threatens your beliefs, then it's like you're not very secure in your beliefs. Because someone existing, there are other cultures, other ethnicities out here that doesn't threaten who I am as a person. And realistically, I have every ethnicity in me to begin with. So how does that threaten me? It doesn't. When I graduated from college, I was the only female and the only person of color to receive a degree in chem bio. And was it challenging? Sure. Did people not understand? Did I get challenged in a male dominated field? Absolutely. But now I still kept going. I'm not going to allow something to affect me and threaten me, threaten my existence, threaten my ability and my right to be there. If you don't believe that I should be there, if you don't believe that, I should earn this type of degree, that's your belief. I don't agree with it, but that's your belief. And I'm saying, cool, I'm glad I know where we stand. And that's it. I've been in situations, and these are very prominent, like, places that I have been, and people have solely wanted to put me out because of my race. And I'm just saying, let's say I will still work with them. And people are like, how do you do that? I'm just like, their beliefs don't affect me. You believe that I'm bad or I'm unworthy or I'm undeserving simply because of my skin tone. Those are your beliefs. I don't agree, but I can still exist with you. I'm not here to change your beliefs. I'm not here to tell you your beliefs are wrong. Anyone who does that, that's this is your life experience. If you want to step out and expand and your knowledge and be open, you may, there's things that may challenge your belief. You may realize question what you believe and you might change it. Or you just think that your beliefs are perfect and you don't have any desire to change it. Okay. So, it's just like, we have to stop. And that's like judgy because we feel like, okay, well, you should be like free or you shouldn't do this. Like I said, we judge other people for not being open. You cannot do that. Like I said, that's how they want to be. Judge not, least you want to be judged. So if you want to judge them for not being open, understand they'll judge you for being open. Like, I love this. Like, this cue that came out, you got the 6 of 9s, and then you got the 2 of 9. And so for me, it's just like transition, 6 of 9s, like we need to transition into a new way of being, a new way of existing, where we are not judging. We need that balance in life. That balance in life. One bad apple doesn't ruin a bunch. That balance between light and dark energy, understanding that the dark needs the light just as much as the light needs the dark. Understand that the opposing, the unknown is kind of labeled as the dark. So the things that you don't know or what you deem as evil or bad, you actually need that. That's an important for you. And maybe you understand something. It's important for you developing as a person. We have to transition into having balance, having equality for things that we don't believe in, having equality in for things that are not like us, that are different. And that's why I'm saying, like, people of color, minorities, you know, especially like being black persons, black people are labeled as bad. A lot of us know there are some people in the race who have done bad things. Like, yeah, are we all bad collectively? No. And we know this. So if we don't like how we've been treated, minorities have been treated that way. If you know you're not bad or your culture isn't bad, then how do you turn around and deem something else bad? How do you treat others the way they've treated you? That's not, for me, that's not what I subscribe to. I believe I treat others how I want to be treated. Even if you treating me badly, that's not how I would want anyone to treat me, so I'm not going to treat you that way. However, now, if it's up to me and I don't have to be around your energy, I will make that choice and not have you in my energy. But if I have to have you in my energy, that's what people are always amazed about. I can coexist. I don't have to demonize you as a horrible person simply because we don't agree on how life should be lived, or something because you don't value me as a person. I don't have to demonize you. I don't have to label you a bad person. I don't have to view you as a bad person. And that's where we have to start bringing balance in. Like the Fool, yes, we now need this new beginning. We need to transition into this new way of being, this new way of thinking. And that was what was being so heavily called on me today. At the bottom of the deck, you got the Empress. It's what was being called on me was just, creating this video, stepping into that Empress energy and just saying, hey, one bad apple doesn't spoil the bunch. The world is not black and white. Growing up, yes, I understand. We should all understand why we're taught the world as black and white. Because they're trying to teach you how to survive in society. The rules that you're expected to follow. But when you are old enough to think for yourself, start thinking for yourself. Be open to learning about different cultures, about different sexual orientations, about different religions, about different professions, different races, ethnicities. We can learn a lot from each other. You don't always have to, like I said, walk away saying, this is the answer, this is the end all to be all. You don't have to walk away feeling that way. But it could, like I said, I'm glad that I did this because I learned something. Like I said, and just everything you learned in school, you may not use that particular subject anymore, but you learn something from it. That's why you're supposed to, I absolutely love liberal arts schools, giving you that foundation to explore other subjects while pursuing your degree. And I went to liberal arts school. And so it was just awesome, I had such great opportunities, from government. I was actually taught by an actual political leader, a congressman, and he took us down to Congress. It was amazing. To, some of the philosophy teachers I had, foreign language professors I had, education is such a powerful tool. Because not only will you learn about yourself, you'll learn about other countries. And then you can possibly understand why education is getting a bad rep and they want to put less and less money into education. In America, I think it's awesome how we have the public school system. And it's a shame that less money is putting into it, but they want people to be less and less educated. Because the less you know, the more that you follow what people are telling you, and, the less you're actually getting out there and doing yourself. And it's you have less of a worldview and more of what people want you, their personal agenda, their view. So it's time for us to transition from being told who we are, being told what to think, from being told that one bad apple spoils the bunch, and transition into being this free thinker, restoring balance, having respect for those that are different from you, having respect from things that differ. And, understanding that, you need, even though that it's differs from your opinions, your viewpoints, your beliefs, it's not bad. It didn't spoil the bunch. It doesn't make the world a horrible place. We need differences. That's how we get equality. If everything was the same, it would just be boring. It's important. to have people, situations, jobs, environments that are different from what you're meant to be. You go out there and explore and you develop your opinion for yourself.